Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. Expect action steps, inspiration, and hot topics. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level in your thriving business, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. I'm your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, Christina, thank you so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast. I am excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk today.
Of course, yeah. So we are both located in Washington. We are in a coaching program together and we got coffee together not too long ago. And it's just so fun meeting more people who are local to Seattle, who are business owners who just get it. So I'm super excited to dive in deeper about your story with the audience today.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love talking business. I love talking to other business owners. And so I'm really excited. This is really fun.
Yeah. So why don't you start off by telling me more about your story of how you started your business? Kind of like, what do you do now?
Yeah, so I started my business in January of 2020 is like when we got so I have a business partner and that's when her and I got all of our like licensing and we set up our website and kind of laid the foundation. And then we went full time in March of 2020, right when the
Mhm.
global pandemic hit. So that was a little scary, but also kind of exciting because a lot of people needed to be online and grow their business. My business is Heart and Social, and we're a digital marketing agency. And we do website design, branding, and social media. So we really help our clients kind of establish and maintain their presence online. We also dabble in a variety of other like marketing avenues that supplement those, but usually like we'll bring someone in who either doesn't have a website or they have one that they, it's not their favorite. They don't really have an established branding or brand voice, and so like we help them kind of solidify that and figure out what kind of persona they want to have online. And usually it's like branding and website first for like big clients, and then we go into a social media strategy and how to have a consistent voice on social media and help them manage their different platforms.
Very cool. Very cool. I love that. And yeah, that's the perfect time to start business in 2020. I know it wasn't the perfect time and it was probably very scary because I also started in 2020. But for any online business, social media, website, that's when those things became really, really important and continue to be. I don't think we're ever going to go back to a time where having social media or having a website is irrelevant.
Yeah, we had a lot of people because when we started, so my business partner Brianna and I, we worked together for a year and a half at a different like creative tech agency in Tacoma. And so that's kind of where we got the foundation of learning. Like I was hired on to be just a social media manager, but I learned some SEO skills and she learned web development skills. And then she also has a bachelor's in fine arts. So she was dabbling with some branding stuff there, but that really wasn't kind of the flavor of our boss. Like, wasn't really
Mhm.
what we focused on. So when we started this, we're like, okay, we really want to have a very design focused business, but also like very strategy, because that's kind of what our two personalities are. And so we had some people lined up to start, and a couple of them were like, I don't know what this COVID-19 thing is. I don't know how this is going to affect our business. So we were able to really establish a solid foundation for us, and then work with a couple of clients that were like, no worries. Like we still have it in the budget, like we're going to move forward. But we had more and more people come to us like, oh yeah, I don't know, I just relied on so many much more traditional marketing that I don't really have a website, or I don't really go on social media to promote, and I have to now since everyone's at home and that's the only way that they can learn about me. So it became kind of like an advantageous time, but it was very very scary just all around.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I totally agree with that. So tell us about your journey from employee to boss. How did you meet Brienne? I know you just said at work, but how did you get to the point in your working relationship that you decided to go into business together?
Yeah, so Brianna and I are both graduates of Washington State University. She's a couple years older than me, so she was already working at the place that we both worked at previously. And when I was graduating college, I was searching for a job, and there's a Facebook group for people who graduated from the College of Communication, the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at WSU. And so, I was on that, and she had posted this opening for a social media manager. So I had applied, and so that's how we got connected. And it was such a small place. There was only four of us working there. So we all did things that were like outside of our jobs, and we like her and I mainly kind of like ran that whole operation and took over a lot of like like the consultation calls and the inquiries, and we wrote up the proposals, and I did all the social media stuff, and we were kind of like the main driving forces of that, and we learned a lot of great information and a lot of great skills that we didn't have, but we wanted to try new and different techniques and different things. And where we were was just very comfortable doing it the way that they did it, and that was fine, and it worked great for them. So after about a year and a half of me being there, I had felt like I had outgrown and I was ready to go somewhere else. And she was kind of on a similar like wavelength. Like she had just had another kid and she came back from maternity leave, and we were both growing and applying for different jobs, and it just wasn't clicking. Like nothing was working, or we'd get to the second interview, or whatever it was. And so we were talking, and both of our families kind of individually had said to us, well, you should just start your own business. Like the two of you run this one. And so I had broached that conversation with her because like my parents had offered to like lend us a little bit of money to get started so that we could have something to roll with. And so her and I, we met a couple of times after work and just talked about it and talked about logistically and like what we would want. And so we kind of started like brainstorming ideas for a name. And like I remember when we came up with our name, Heart and Social, we were at my house just like thinking, and we were saying all these different things. And it was like, no, no, that doesn't fit. And so then we were like, okay, well, let's take a break from this. This is too much. So then we were just talking about life, and like at the time, one of my best friends was getting married and I was the maid of honor. So we started talking about my friend's wedding, and I was like I ended up being like the officiant and blah blah blah. But that somehow led us into, oh, like we want to talk about like the love of business and like the hearts and souls behind every brand. And we're like, oh, well, we're gonna do social media, so let's do Heart and Social. And so it just kind of like came out naturally from a random conversation about my friend's wedding.
But
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's kind
That's
of how a lot of
amazing.
our stuff just happens, is like her and I will get together and we'll talk things through, and it'll just kind of snowball into ideas that we have.
Yeah. And that's awesome that you have such a great working relationship, but it also sounds like you have a friendship before the the business as well. So that's a great partner to go into business with, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And her and I we've always said like we're a very great balance for each other, because she is very like artistic, and like her mind for design is something that I can't even comprehend. Like I'll be creating like a social media graphic or something, and I'm like, I can't, this is not what I want it to look like. Like I know what I want it to look like, but I can't make it look on the screen. So sometimes I'll send it to her and I'll be like, can you please fix this or
Yeah.
whatever. But then like on my end, like I love all the strategy and the numbers, and I handle all of our like bookkeeping, and I do our taxes. I prepare our taxes for the accountant to do.
Mhm.
I don't do the taxes because we were both like, yeah, we're not actually filing them,
Yeah.
but I do all the logistics. And she's thank you, because she has no interest in any of that.
That's great that you have such a balance, and it sounds that makes you better at delegating as well. And so I know a lot of people in business who either start off with a partner and it goes horribly wrong, or they want to then, go into business with someone. And since you have such a great partnership with Brianna, I would love to hear Kind of what did those conversations sound like early on when you were talking about going into business together? And then once you decided to do it, how did you decide to, split things up? Not just what you and her are each going to do, but how did you come to the decision of how much are you going to charge? What percent, what did that look like?
Hmm. Yeah, it was just, it started out with a lot of conversations like after work previously, like before we even pulled the trigger, of just we'd get together, we'd go across the street because our old job was right by the McMinimans Elks Temple in Tacoma. And so we'd go over there after work, we'd get like a drink and we'd be like, okay, what do we want to do? Like, how do we want to do it different than what we're doing right now? What do we want to do the same?
Mhm.
We, as for pricing, since we kind of already worked in a small space that like I did all the invoicing, so I knew what we were charging for everything and we kind of had an idea. We were like, okay, well, we actually need to be charging more for these services than what than what this place is doing, because it's like it's a lot of work and we do a really good job. And so we kind of had the baseline on like setting prices for things, but knowing we wanted to do a little bit more. But just it was just a lot of meetings early on of, okay, like how do we want to split this up?
Mhm.
I have a family friend who is a very successful, she's the CEO of a franchise brokerage. And so she was instrumental early on helping us out and giving us advice. And we met with her a few times and she kind of explained a way to set ourselves up for success for planning for the year. And okay, like what are key things that we want to get done, and then okay, what are the steps to get those done, and like how what are you going to get done, what are you going to get done. And like we check in frequent would have check-ins frequently to be like, okay, like how is this going? Oh, I need help on this, or I need support on this. And doing those kinds of
Yeah.
things, especially early on, was very, very important.
Oh, for sure. Communication is important to like even me and my clients, when you work with your clients too. But I feel like it would be even more important when you are making money with someone and you are building a business with someone and making sure that it aligns with both of the futures that you want to build. So, what advice do you have for anyone who wants to go into business with a partner?
Yeah, I definitely, a big piece of advice is make sure you're on the same page for how you want the business to grow. Because if one of you wants to stay small and only have a couple people, and one person wants to get really big and have tens and twenties of employees and own a building and do all this, like then you're already like on a completely different page. So definitely like being on the same page of like how you want the company to grow, but also just a lot of so much communication, so much, because like me personally, sometimes like I'll just be a little more with the float, like I don't have hard opinions on things, but really finding the things that are like, no, 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 this is very important to me and I want to make sure that it's known, is something that I've had to work on since like early business. On no, no, no,
Yeah.
like I'm also 50% owner of this, so it, like my opinion
Yeah.
matters.
Totally. And how do you guys communicate with each other? Since you're both in Tacoma, do you ever get together and work, or are most days virtually or working, or do you just split up projects totally?
Yeah, so we get together as much as possible. Early on, she would actually come over to my house and we'd like work together in the same space. But then as time has gone on, we work from our own individual houses and just like work on our projects, and then like sometimes go to each other's houses, but usually it's like a check-in over like Google Meet. Right
Mhm.
now she's actually getting her master's to like kind of level up, and so she's doing an in-person on the other side of the state. So then now we've gone like fully digital, which
Mm.
is can be hard, but now we're kind of in a space like 4.5 years in where we have like our processes in place where it's not as hard. But yeah, so usually as much as possible in person we get together.
Yeah. That's awesome. Because I remember when we met for coffee, you told me that you would never really want to go into business alone. You were like, you love having a business partner. And I think that that is such an important thing to know about yourself and the way that you want to do business. The coaching program that we're both in, it talks a lot about you can do business your own way and it doesn't have to be hard. And for some people, having a business partner is going to, like you said, split up some tasks. One thing that I've been thinking about lately for my business is I'm a podcast manager,
Mhm.
but people expect me to know YouTube and social media and all these different things that maybe aren't necessarily what my expertise is in.
Mhm.
So I love that you have someone that you can kind of lean on for support, but also it sounds like you too have your own expertise and kind of know what lanes you're in. And of course, like can come together, but kind of keep separate at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we both of us have said on countless times that we would not want to do this on our own, just for the fact
Mhm.
of it's like a lot. It's a lot to start a business. There's so many different things, and having a person, because we both think very like similarly, and we're like similarly driven, and we have similar goals, and so I think that's been very helpful because then we're both on a very similar path in like, and that helps lead the or guide the decisions that we make. But it is nice because we are our like skill sets are opposite, like you said, and very complementary. But yeah, because it's a lot, because even for us, like we have, the services we offer for our clients, but then they'll have issues that are like kind of adjacent, like some other sort of like technology issue, and they usually come to us first and they're like, can you fix this? And we're like, well, that's not really in our job description, but sure, we'll try. We'll try and help you fix something weird with your email, or your Google business profile, or whatever it is. But
Mhm.
it's nice to have another person where it's okay, I tried everything I could with this. Do you have any other ideas on how we could fix this problem?
Yeah, yeah. For me, a lot of my clients have said to me, I want to go viral on YouTube. And I'm like, I think it just is consistency and good luck. Of course, there's like a strategy that goes with it that I can, of course, help them, but I can't, just you can't make someone go viral.
Yeah,
You can't
one
make these things happen.
one of our very first clients, she decided to start a good news YouTube channel because it was like peak COVID and she was tired of all the
Mhm,
negativity, and she just wanted like a happy space where people could go and learn good news stories. And so she was with us for 3.5 years, like 4 years, and she stopped just because managing a YouTube channel is too much. But that was a constant conversation that we had to have. She's like, I want to go viral. And I was like, well, we need content. Like this thing is like this the beast of YouTube needs to be continually fed. And so that was
yes.
hard for her to maintain because she had a full-time job and this was just kind of the side. But it's a lot of like talking things through with clients, and then it's nice to have a partner to be like, oh gosh, like I need a debrief from this phone call that I just had with them. Like I've had the same conversation 10 times and now I think it's finally sunk in. So like that's another nice element of having a business partner is they
Mhm,
know the client, they know the situation, like they get it. Whereas sometimes like my family and friends are very supportive, but like none of them are entrepreneurs. So they
mhm.
can't like relate in quite the same way.
Yes, no, I love that you have that sort of, person to go back and forth with who knows the details. And I'm curious, how did you two decide on what offers you're actually going to serve and what clients you're actually going to serve? I know that you have a background in, both working for that same agency and then you have different skill sets, but building out your offers, what did that process look like?
Yeah, we kind of looked at what we were doing at our previous agency and we were like, what do we like to do? What parts of that job brought us joy, and what did we like? And I really liked like the ever changing and the constant learning of social media and the strategy and doing all that. And especially since it was COVID and lockdown, we were like, okay, that definitely 100% has to be an offer. And then Brianna really wanted to do branding because she loves design and she's, I want to implement more of that.
Mhm,
So we kind of started as those were like the two main ones, and we were like, yeah, like we'll offer some web development and like web design, but we weren't 100% sure if that's something we wanted to do all the time. But then that turned into like a big part of it, and Brianna got really, really good at designing the websites. And so then I was working on the copy. And so it was just kind of things that like we did well and that we liked. And that's how we picked what we wanted to offer.
Very cool. And has that adapted in the 4 years of business that you've been in together?
Yeah, I think we got really like design heavy and we did a lot of like branding and web projects just with kind of like the landscape of social media changing, and it's becoming harder and harder to manage on behalf of other companies because it is so
Mhm.
in the moment and so video heavy. And so we kind of dialed back the social media a bit, but now that she's kind of taken a step back from the amount of designing she's doing, I've been trying to ramp up our social media and coming
Yeah.
up with new ideas. Something that I've recently started offering is I will come in and do 3-hour content batching sessions with you. So, a lot of younger entrepreneurs, they're like, I know what I want to make. I know, like, I see the social, like the videos, I want to do it. I just don't have the time or the hands or, whatever. I don't have someone there to help me actually just create the videos. So I was like, okay, well, that's something I can do. So I'll come up with a plan of, okay, is there any video, like, is there anything that you want to specifically do? And then, like, here's some ones that I've seen and how to make it relevant to your business. But then here's also just some evergreen videos that you can repost several times that are always going to be relevant to your business, to your industry, whatever. And then go in for 3 hours and just batch a bunch of stuff on their phone. And it's okay, now it's ready. All you have to do is hit post and it's
Yeah.
up. So just as kind of the digital landscape has changed, we've had to adjust a bit on what we offer.
Yeah, and that's such an amazing offer that you have because that's what I think every business owner needs. I wish I had 2 more hands in the back of my head to record stuff and do more things like that, and, you know, I'm a solopreneur, and so getting help on certain things like that definitely make the difference in business
Mhm.
100%. So, yeah, I love that the adapting as the world changes is definitely like the social media world is definitely something that I think every business has to keep up with.
Yeah, it is. And it's so hard because people get so discouraged. I mean, I even get discouraged with like our own stuff because I'm just so engulfed in everyone else's and I'm like, I just don't want to do it, but I know I got to do it. And so and a lot of my clients are like, "Oh, I don't want to be in front of a camera. I don't want to dance around. I don't want to do this." And I'm like, well, "We don't have to do that."
Mhm.
Like your social media should be a reflection of you and your business. And like the three
Mhm.
goals of it should be to educate, to entertain, and to make money, to make sales. But you mainly
Right.
want to educate and then sprinkle a little bit of entertainment and then a little bit of sales stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and you're so right. The days of just being able to post a bunch of graphics, I think, are over because people now want to know who they're speaking to or who they're, you don't have to be. I'm pretty private on what I post on my social media for my business. I'm not posting like, oh, I'm out to dinner, I'm out doing this, I'm not doing this.
Mhm.
But I find that the posts that do best are like personal posts. And I think it's just because that's what people love. They're curious. They want to know more.
Yeah, yeah. I think everyone's gotten kind of like a glimpse into everyone else's lives, and they want to feel like, oh, I can relate, or that's similar to me, or like I can see how this could
Mhm.
fit into my life, like a
Yeah.
product or a service or whatever.
Yeah. I was just editing one of my clients' episodes yesterday, actually, and it was about social media. And she was like, I love seeing inside of people's homes. And I was like, it's so funny to say, but I think it's so true. People like seeing how other people live and the details and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I love that. And, for you and Brianna creating content, what does that process look like, especially since you're not together?
Yeah, it's a lot harder now, but whenever we can, we try and get together and like batch content together, whether it's my
Mhm.
house or her house or, if we go out to a outside location. But we usually have like what I do for my clients and then for us is like I have a content batching system on, okay, like
Mhm.
we find videos. First, we just like scroll and we like find videos and audios that we like and we save those and then we like reevaluate them and we're like, okay, how can we make this relevant to our business? And then we move that over to, okay, now that we've figured out a plan, here's like a list of all these videos that we can just bing, bang, boom, shoot and
Yeah.
don't do anything with them. And then they're saved on the phone. And then we go in and edit and then we go and post. So we try and break it up into very manageable sections. And so, we'll get a list of things we want to do. And then her and I will get together and okay, we'll bring over a change of clothes and we'll do a few and then put on a jacket or put on a different shirt. And usually, oh gosh, usually there's so many bloopers. That's one of my favorite things. That's one of my favorite things of recording content with other people. Or I'm also in a networking group where we do content days and like we help each other out with that kind of stuff. But it's just so funny to put together a blooper reel of like whoopsies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Because it makes it more human, right?
yeah, yeah. Or like there's a trend that was going around recently and it's, oh, who you think is, designing your website, cutting your hair, whatever. And it's like a really nice
Yeah.
clean cut or whatever. And then it's either like a goofy video or like a goofy picture. And I saw that and I was like, I know exactly what we need to do because there's this we usually try and get together for our anniversary of like our business license coming through. And so from our 1 year anniversary, like we got like party poppers and balloons and like all this fun stuff. And we had made a boomerang where we were like doing like a confetti popper. And I there's like a screenshot of my face and it's like this weird funny face. And we laugh at it every time we look at it. We're like, we're gonna meme the heck out of this every chance that we get. And so as soon as I saw that trend, I was like, I have to use this picture. And it's just like such a great like happy memory from like our 1 year anniversary. And but just like
Yeah.
things like that, like we just try and make as much genuine content as we can and educate people on what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll put your Instagram in the show notes for anyone who wants, because I remember seeing that reel and I did laugh. So I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes for anyone who wants to know exactly what Christina's talking about.
Ugh, it's so good. Those are my favorite kinds. Just when you can just be goofy and make it relevant, it is my favorite.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. I have loved this because I think this really is like such a good insight of what it's like doing business with another person. And managing even when you're not together, how you have that communication and really can lean on each other for different ideas or different things that need to be done. Just like I said before, how I've heard so many people say that they want to try it out, but they've heard so many horror stories about doing business with another person. I think that this is a great insight into what it can look like, the benefit of it, like how beautiful it can be.
Yeah, it makes me think back to like when I was going into college. One of my best friends from childhood, like her and I, we both went to WSU and we wanted to like room together our freshman year in the dorms. And everyone was like, oh, no, no, don't room with a friend. Don't do that. You won't be friends, blah, 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 blah. And so we're like, okay, well, I don't want to ruin this friendship. So we both got different roommates that were not good at all. Totally did not work out. So the first semester we were with different roommates. We were in the same dorm building, thankfully. And we're like, all right, screw that. We're just gonna room together next semester. And and it worked out great. And then the next year she lived in her sorority, and then the third year we were there, we rented an apartment together. And then after college, we roomed together here. So I always think of that, that picking a roommate as a friend as a roommate is the same idea I have as like a friend as a business partner. Like if you do things similarly and you know that person, then it's going to work out well. Like for a business partner, like if you know you have similar work ethics and similar goals and similar, you know, way like ideas and things that are aligned, then it's going to work out well. But if you and your best
Mhm.
friend want to start a business but you're unaligned in those ways, or like you and a coworker are unaligned in those ways, then it's not going to be successful. I think that's where you get the horror stories, because you're not on the same page and then you don't feel like comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. My first podcast that I ever started, and I knew nothing about podcasting before I started my first podcast in 2017. Literally, I taught myself everything there was to know about it based on this experience. But I had a co host and it was so fun. We were learning everything together. She was dealing with Twitter, I was dealing with Instagram. Everything we just split up and we came together to record the episodes. We would be connecting with different people, and it was so much fun. And I love that. I absolutely loved having a co host on my podcast. Now I get to kind of have that vibe with guests,
Uh-huh.
but it is kind of fun having someone to do the research and experience everything with. And so there's good moments for it, and I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I think I would be too bored if I did this on my own. Like it would just be too much of just like me by myself sitting at a computer, like
Mhm.
only talking to clients
Overthinking.
or only
Yeah.
only listening to Spotify or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Or like you mentioned before, how she's really good at design. So you can be like, please look at this because I'm losing my mind. That is so beneficial. And I think that's what a lot of people wish that they had. And so if you're listening and you are, you know, you want to start a business, because a lot of the listeners might not have businesses yet, but they want to do it. And sometimes it is more comfortable making that step with another person to rely on too. So I hope that, you reach out to Christina because I'm sure that her and Brianna can definitely give you some tips. I'm curious before we get into your action steps for the week, and this is kind of like a big technical question, but what were some of the things that attracted each other to, you to her and her to you, like just the qualities?
Yeah, I think a big thing that attracted to us was just our both of our desire to like always learn. Like we're always like we always want to learn new things and the new skills and all the new things. Our work ethics. I think we trauma bonded a little bit at the last place we worked just cuz it was a lot.
Mhm.
Like there was
Yeah.
there was a lot of great moments, but then a lot of moments that made us want to pull our hair out. But I think being in that situation and like both of us having similar of okay, like this is how I would have dealt with this. Well, that's what I would have done too. And so just I think like coming up to those difficult moments and frustrating moments on okay like how would we resolve this problem and both of us having very similar ideas. I think those were kind of like the big things that attracted us to start this together.
How do you check in with each other to make sure you're on the same page? Because it does sound like you're in two different phases of life, right? It sounds like she might be a little bit older than you and have at least two kids. So,
Yeah.
how do you make sure that you're on the same page? And she's going to school, so how do you make sure that you're on the same page as you continue to grow the business?
Yeah, we have a schedule. That was a big kind of transition because we talked all the time, like every day. And then when she started this program, her days kind of fluctuated. And so the first semester of that happening, we didn't talk as much and I really struggled because I was I want her feedback on some things or I want, I just need to talk through some things, but I didn't know like exactly when I could. And so we really made it a point to okay, like these are all of the things we have happening in our schedules and like we have a scheduled like weekly check-in that we have on the calendar where we're like okay, like we're going to cover as much as possible. It was the day that she like didn't have any class or didn't have anything and we're like okay, this is how the week went and this is what's going on next week, this is what I need support with, and really trying to have a completely open line of communication, especially as we both got busier. And then now I'm doing all of our business stuff, but I'm in a networking group and then I'm in this coaching
Yeah.
group and then like all the different things. It's just so important to like always check in and always talk.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so important. When I know that you have a business license and did all of the things to set everything up correctly.
Mhm.
I'm sure you came up with a business checking account that you both had access to and like set everything up the right way. Did you also have a contract or did you consult with anyone before going into business together?
Yeah, so getting all of that stuff set up. So that was my like before we started, like we split it up and she was like, okay, I'm gonna build our website and get all of our digital stuff ready. And then I was in charge of getting the UBI, the EIN, the business license, the all of
Mhm.
the legal paperwork, which was very hard and confusing. So if you're setting up a business and you feel confused, you're not alone, because they don't make it clear on where you find any of the documents. And then you try and get one and they're like, oh, you need this other one. And I was like, well, how do I get this other one? And so,
And if one thing wrong is wrong, it's all
right.
wrong.
And then one thing's wrong is all wrong. And then we went in together to get the bank account and gave them all the information. And we both have same access, all the same information. And so like all of the big stuff we like do together, but then we like delegate other things and then come together and be like, oh, like every January I'm like, oh, I got all our tax stuff turned into the accountant. Taxes should be done soon.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for being open to sharing these details because that's also, I think, what holds a lot of people back from business alone or business with a partner. So I think that that's really important to talk about. And before we wrap up, I want to hear a little bit more about Heart and Social and how you help your clients. What services do you offer that people in the state of Washington or out of the state of Washington can come to you for?
Yeah, so the main three are website design. So if you have a website, you don't like it, it's not serving you, it's not serving your clients, you've outgrown it, we can help you expand upon that, modernize it, make it more functional to actually serve you and your clients. Or if you're just starting out and you need one, we also work with a lot of people that are just starting their business. Usually, especially for those people, we'll start off with branding. So that's one of the other big elements of our business is we'll create you a whole brand new brand or refresh it. And that's more than just like logo. We do multiple variations of a logo. We do different orientations and sizes, black and white, color. But then we also help you come up with like brand adjectives and like a brand voice. And so you have a full understanding of like when you go to make marketing materials or you go and talk kind of what your brand's voice is. And then the third is social media. So we can do everything from manage it for you all the way to help you create and batch content and do it on your own. Really kind of any flavor that people want in terms of social media, because it is kind of, we have people that are more hands-on and more hands-off, so we try and cater to everybody on what they need.
Very cool. So, if anyone is interested in working with you or just coming to talk to you about your business structure and all the fun things that come along with business, how can people find you?
Yeah, you can find us on all social media platforms at Heart and Social Media, like spelled out. And send me a DM. I'm happy to chat. If you're in the Washington area, I'm happy to get coffee and talk. That's one of my favorite things to do. We've worked with a lot of clients that are out of state. So if you're out of state, I also am very familiar with Zoom because that was the bread and butter at the early stages of business. Was everything was on Zoom. But yeah, just at Heart and
Yep.
Social Media, send me a DM.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes. And Christina, to wrap up every episode, I ask the guest this. I would love it if you could share 3 action steps for the audience to take based on this conversation. So instead of them turning off this episode and being like, okay, cool, that was great, let's challenge them to do a couple things this week. So, what do you want to challenge the audience with this week?
I think since we've been talking a lot about having a partner, I think 3 action steps for anybody who's thinking of starting a business with a partner or maybe bringing one on to your current business. Make a list of what's important to you. Like where do you want your business to be? What kind of tone and all the things that are important to you, so that you have this list ready for. And then when you talk to a potential business partner and see if they're aligned on that, be maybe also like self-reflect and be honest with yourself. Are you good at communicating what you feel and being able to tell someone, I don't like that, or that makes me upset, or this is actually really what I want? And because that is like a big thing, because you don't want one person to kind of overpower and overvoice. Like it's very important for both people to express what they feel. And then I think a third one is just also just think about what your strengths are and like what you bring to the table in a partnership, and where you actually maybe kind of struggle and where you would want someone to kind of fill in that gap and bring up the whole team.
Yeah, I love those. And if I can add one more to yours, I think working with brand specialists like you and Brianna, working with them to create your brand and having a brand voice and a brand tone, because you're starting a company. If you have multiple employees, you need everyone to know what's going on. And so, I was just thinking of, what if you're both creating content and one day one of you decides to create something that's bright yellow and orange and then that's nothing with the brand.
Right.
So having some sort of brand that you can always both rely on, and working with someone like you, Christina, I think would make a big difference,
Yeah, it's
for a
it's it's
solopreneur
very it's
org.
very helpful. And like whenever we do branding for someone, we'll set them up an account on Canva and set all of their
Mhm.
brand assets in there. And then it
Oh,
makes it so
amazing.
easy whenever they want to make something, they have all their colors, their fonts, their,
Mhm.
any brand assets or like additional icons. So, but yeah, so that's a great point.
Yeah, I love all of those. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think I could talk to you for 4 more hours because I have so many more
That
questions, but I'll have to have you back onto the podcast.
would be great. This was so fun. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.